What I mean, ladies and gentlemen?
Now,
I'm not asleep.
Before we talk about Lenny's new play based in a reggae record store, Andy Kershaw finds out why Huddersfield will always have a musical link to Kingston, Jamaica.
Oh, look, Leo's loving the rhythm like that.
In the 1970s, I fell in love with reggae, whether it was watching live bands or listening to a sound system.
In the late 1970s and early 80s, I used to make pilgrimages here to Venn Street to listen to those sound systems in those clubs and to see visiting Jamaican bands. But now, all those clubs have been knocked down and replaced by a charming multi-storey car park. At the heart of those gigs were the competing sound systems. For the reggae DJs of Yorkshire, size really did matter.
The sound system had its roots in Kingston, Jamaica, and was actually nothing more than a small gramophone and speakers which shopkeepers and businesses put outside to get the customers in. But to draw in the big crowds, you needed big sounds, and they grew into monstrous cabinet speaker systems which brought rhythm and blues, ska and then reggae to the UK. Michael Moore, also known as Bones, moved to Huddersfield from Jamaica in 1967 and set up his own sound system to become one of the town's living legends.
As you can see,
What do they name this thing?
they love it. They love it. Huddersfield, for a small town, had the most sound system. It's a musical-inspired town.
What were the rivalries like between you and other sound systems? Was it friendly?
For an onlooker, you wouldn't think so, but it was friendly.
And this would be what we called back then a DJ clash, where
Yes,
you'd have two sound systems
systems.
in the same room.
That's right.
And one system would play a record, then the other one would play a record.
Yes. We made the sound and the music do the business. Sometimes I feel like I'm actually in the box.
For that deep, earthy sound, well, you can't really buy the equipment to create that in the shops. So the sound system crews tend to build their own gear. And that tradition continues in Huddersfield to this day. How does it differ from the DJ gear that I would use, for example?
It's a lot bigger and a lot better. Turntable, phono stage, brain, we call the preamp, into the amplifiers, into enormous speaker boxes. Physical laws don't allow for a big sound to come out of a small box. But I think the 80s was probably the most exciting time for sound systems to be playing from Huddersfield around the country against other sound systems from major cities.
And today, the British sound systems are stronger than ever, and the One Love Festival in Milton Keynes is Britain's reggae mecca.
I think the intensity of the sound just moves you.
People love sound systems, and where it used to be just a mainly West Indian, maybe Jamaican descendant culture when I was young, now there's people all around the world that do sound systems.
In the 70s and 80s, the biggest names in Jamaican music and the British fans were drawn to this Pennine town. And for a while, most implausibly, a small street in Huddersfield became a little corner of Kingston.
He's dancing.
Yeah.
Thanks to Andy.
Murder! Out in the street, they call it the one show.
Well, this is something that goes back to your early days, isn't it? We were just
Sound
talking, Lenny,
systems.
yeah.
Yeah, what used to happen is we used to have rent parties in Dudley. The Jamaican community often do that when they can get behind on the rent. They'd have a party and people pay to get in, and there'd be booze that they could buy and curry goat and rice or chicken and rice on paper plates. And the parties would go on till 6 o'clock in the morning. And the thing is, when you're a kid in Dudley and you're like 8 years old and you come home and there's no furniture in the house, you think your parents have moved out. That's not the case. They're having a rent party. And they'd let the kids stay up. And so you'd be a little kid and grown-ups will say to you, old you is, boy, 6, take a baby sham. So
Wow, that was your first experience of alcohol?
My first experience of alcohol.
Yeah.
My first experience of seeing these massive wardrobe-sized speakers in my house. And the bass was so loud. People from over the road would be dancing in their living room. It was such a great and exciting time. And this is partly what Rudy's Rare Records is about. It's set in the present day. and it's set in a record shop in Handsworth, and it's just about 3 generations of dysfunctional men living amongst each other. My dad is played by Larrington Walker, who's a fantastically funny actor, plays Rudy. My son is played by Javan Wade. He's from a group called Mandem on the Wall. You can see them on the internet. It's a really wonderful cast. It's directed by Paulette Randall, who was the associate director on the 2012 Olympics ceremony with Danny Boyle. And it's a fantastically exciting rehearsal process. It's the first time I've worked with a live writer. So normally, when if you do Shakespeare and stuff, you can't change anything.
No, but to actually be with somebody.
But now the writers are live, you can go, "Can I change this?" He goes, "Yeah, you're fine," and you just change it. So it's really exciting.
And this has been on Radio 4 for quite a while. You were saying
since 2008, yes.
Right.
And we've just made a TV pilot of Rudy's Rare Records.
And how's that looking?
It's fantastic. It's going to be on the BBC Comedy Playhouse soon.
Okay.